Hello everyone, my name is Benjamin Russell Taver, and today's video I will be presenting my research methodology on predicting the value of trading cards in the collectible market in Singapore. So this study aims to explore how experienced buyer can access the value of trading cards and what factors influence their purchasing decisions. So to start things off, we'd like to talk about the research background of my topic. So the trading card game market has grown significantly over the years, especially after COVID, which has been now viewed as an investment by many, with the high valued cards being sold for thousands of dollars. However, card prices are volatile and difficult to predict, which leads many collectors or buyers to rely on their first-hand knowledge experience as a guideline. The goal of this research is to seek a method that will help buyers in their purchasing decisions with the help of three major buyers in the field. So next we're going to talk about the problem statements. We have determined there are 4 problems that can be addressed in this research, with the first being there is no consistent method, as there is no methods currently that exist to predict a card's price before its release. So people or buyers can't be looking at TCG players or eBay to search or gather information on the price prior to its release. The second would be market fluctuation, as the price of a card fluctuates depending on certain factors such as tournament results topping, or the value of the cards being endorsed by the players, or maybe even IP such as Pokemon. Given in the picture here shown, a 1990s Pokemon first edition Charizard card was sold for $420,000 USD in 2022 compared to the price it was sold for at $220,000 in 2020. The third would be intuition and speculation over norm. We say this is because there are no right ways to predict the prices of cards, so buyers always tend to use their intuition and speculations. The last would be the many uncertainties that comes with the market, as card prices can fluctuate as mentioned, but also whether the cards will have a price at the start or will holding it gain more value in the future. So moving on, we're going to talk about the research objective of this assignment. So the first is to collect and analyze historical data of trading cards gathered from online platforms. So this can be platforms such as TCG Player, eBay, Throw and Throw, which have a large history of buying and selling cards. The second would be to identify the key factors that influence purchasing decisions, so that the reason why buyers pay this kind of money, these high prices, or willing to spend this much on the cards. And the third is to incorporate machine learning algorithm to create a predictive model, which will help aid them in their purchasing decisions in the future. Then moving on to the next slide, which is the research question. The first question we always have is, what are the factors that contribute to the card's pricing and fluctuation, as the nature of the card, the usability, its flexibility, its price in the market, or so forth. Second is, how can transaction history data can be used to predict the future value of a card? So how do we use past data or past trends to predict the future value of a card that hasn't been released yet? Then the third is, can machine learning be effectively used to predict the value of a card, so that can we create a new model that will aid us to predict the card's price in the future, and how effective it can be. So moving on to the next slide, which talks about the research methods that has been used for this assignment. So the research method that I have chosen was qualitative research. So why qualitative research? So before that, I need to explain is, to achieve this objective, I chose a qualitative approach using interview with 3 experienced buyers, because this method allowed me to gain an in-depth insight into their thought process and strategies. So the first point I will point out here is, provides a deeper insight into the behaviors and decisions of the buyer and collector. The second would be to better for tracking factors such as emotional or perception, as this influences the buyer's purchasing behaviors. The last would be to learn the buying and decision pattern of the buyer and collector. So if you look at the picture on the right, it shows a card here which was only a single copy in existence, And a study by eBay shows that 76% of collectors make purchasing decisions based on expected long-term value rather than current market rate. So since this card is so scarce and its current value might be high, but the only reason why they would prefer to buy this at this current price would be because they expect it to either go up in the future for its scarcity. Moving on to the next slide, the reason why I chose qualitative methods over quantitative method was because quantitative method was more suited to smaller value cards, as the cards are more accessed by many, so it has a larger sample size compared to qualitative, which this research needs, as we are trying to understand the buying patterns for high price cards. The second is it is more accessibility and affordability, which is also stated from previously. More people will be able to afford these cards. The third would be, depending on the different level income household, it will also affect the buyer's purchasing decision and behavior. And with this, I can't get a conclude evidence on why buy price cards are priced high, because the factors are going to be difference in income or difference in affordability. Then the fourth, as I mentioned, I won't be able to access price of high value cards accurately. As a study from eBay shows, 76% of collectors make purchasing decisions based on long-term value rather than market value, but also depending on their purchasing power. So next would be the interview method. So I conducted a semi-structured interview, as it is able to have a flexible discussion, so I can have a proper one-to-one conversation with the buyer or the participant, and I am also get a better understanding of their mindset on why they make these decisions when purchasing cards. And the last is, I'll be able to reach an outcome while learning new insights that I probably wouldn't have thought of without it. So for the participant selection, I've chose 3 big buyers that I've known very closely or very well in Singapore. And the reason why I chose them were because of their experience in the trading card market, as they are very close or influenced in the market, as one of them is a well-known high-valued buyer and the second owns a shop in Singapore. The second would be the high-value transactions that they conduct, as they are willing to spend thousands of dollars just to buy these cards in order to make a profit later on. As one shop I know in Singapore, which is a friend, is one of the participants as well, he make purchases over the year and will start to sell them the following year in Japan and make a total of double or maybe triple his money. The third would be their perspective in the trading card game market trend. So their perspective of the trend and how they can value that to make purchasing decisions. So next, we're going to move on to the data collection process. So we have using 3 different processes. The first is the most important one, a one-to-one interview using Discord or in person, as I do transit to Singapore quite frequent, so I managed to do a one-to-one session with one of them. This will allow me to gain interview question or ask in a more direct approach compared to being just giving them a piece of paper and writing down what the answer to a question. The second would be a recorded session, so I can later review back the interview and maybe get a better understanding of what I might have missed out. And the third would be a thematic analysis, but I will discuss that in a later slide. Next is the interview questions. So we ask a total of 5 questions during the data collection process or during the interview sessions. So the first question we ask is, how do you determine the card prices? The second is, what influence your purchasing decisions? The third is, do you see trading cards as an investment? If yes, how do you predict the price for future cards? The fourth is, does media coverage / social trends impact cards prices? And the last question was, would you find a predictive pricing model helpful in your decision making? So coming back to thematic analysis, I use this approach to analyze the responses I have gained through the interview and the recording from the data selection process. using the 6 steps here, which is familiarize myself with the data, generate initial quotes, search for the themes, review potential themes, define and name those themes, and produce the report. But because this is a research, I have only chosen to do 5 steps and opted out of using generate initial quotes. And through this, I have determined there are 3 key themes that affect the prices of cards in the market right now. So with the use of thematic analysis and from the interviews gathered, I've identified 3 major themes that influence the trading cards value in the market. The first being card attributes and rarity. So the first is rarity, condition, and IP popularity. So buyers will tend to buy cards of higher rarity or in more pristine conditions, as they will be later be valued higher compared to the normals, or if the IP popularity suddenly skyrockets. So an example would be like Digimon, an IP that has existed since 1990 but has shown a resurgence in the recent 2020 during COVID era, which leads to a spike in prices. And the second would be the scarcity and exclusivity. As shown in the picture again, the card has only been printed once for a big event tournament, and its value was speculated to be sold for about 200,000 USD. The next key theme is market trends. So, social media hypes and tournament results will heavily influence the cards prices, as when cards become more heavily used in the tournament, that increases the demand of the card, which means supply needs to keep up with it, which will lead to an increase in price. The second would be cultural influences, such as the resurgence of a certain IP, which will bring back emotions for certain buyers, and that will increase the price of a card as people are more emotionally attached to these cards. Moving on, the third is influencers endorsement. So we can see like Logan Paul, when he endorsed the Pokemon card, the card was speculated to have an increased value of 600%. Due to him signing the card, leads to an increase in price and also scarcity, as it became a unique card at that point. So the last key theme that was gathered from this research was investment. So buyers tend to view trading cards now as an asset or a long-term valued asset to be a fact, as the value of the card can either go up or down, such as stocks. And this tends to be viewed also as a financial investment, as a card's price may be low as $50 right now, but in the future, based on its long-term holding, its collector value, and its scarcity, would triple or maybe even quintuple in value in the near future. So with all the key themes discussed and gathered, as well as the research that has been discussed, we now go to comparing it with our literature from our previous assignment. So first thing we can tell is the research that has been conducted here has aligned with the previous research done, as it answers the research questions on what are the factors that contributed to the card's pricing and fluctuation. It also answers the question of how can transactional history data be used to predict the future value of cards, and why does it needs to be used to predict the future of the cards, as well as how can machine learning be effectively used to predict the value of a card. And this also confirms the theory stated in previous research, such as the supply-demand, the psychological factor, the speculation and investment mindset, the market trends, and the differences in classes that may affect the demand of different cards based on lower income buyers and high income buyers, and also provides a qualitative support to the research. So next we're going to talk about the implications that comes from this research. So the first we can see is it provides insights for traders, collectors, and investors, as the information or research gathered here can help them make better purchasing decisions by looking at all the facts instead of going with their intuition or with their gut feelings. The second is it will provide a systematical approach to the valuation of a card's price instead of guessing and taking a risk, such as for the future pricing of cards, like using data or past transactional history to gain a better understanding of the value that this card might be expected to be. The last would be, in the future, you can also use combined qualitative studies with a quantitative model so that it cannot just be used by not just the big spenders, but can be also used for the lower income buyers, so that they also may have a chance to invest in a small amount compared to the big buyers' bigger amount. Moving on, we're going to talk about the limitations and future research of this topic. So the first limitation we can see is the small sample size, as we only use 3 participants. But I do believe that these 3 participants should be able to hold their value because they are the 3 most well-known buyers in Singapore for their big spending power. But again, because of its small sample size, we can't be able to show as the whole topic, such as for the whole country of Singapore. The second would be the interpretation may vary, because while these cards may have certain values right now, certain interpretation may say that this topic does not hold its merit here because of how well you can interpret the data gathered from this research. But for future researchers, maybe they could expand to more participants by using a quantitative method or a mixed method that would maybe get the perspective of both the small and bigger purchases, but that will have its own different type of research questions which did not fit the theme of this particular research. So this concludes the video. I can say the key takeaway here is this video will provide a better understanding of a buyer's decision making on why they make these purchases based on the reasons discussed earlier. And hopefully this research will also contribute in the making of a pricing model that will assist in buyers in predicting the prices of future cards. And also it will help the buyers combine both their natural intuitiveness or history and add that with a data-driven approach to better results or better purchasing decisions. So lastly, thank you for listening throughout the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below. And that ends my presentation. Thank you.